Today's lesson is building common ground in interpersonal relationships. Our main topic is conflicts. We will discuss three aspects of conflicts: the value of conflicts, the source of conflicts, and ways of handling conflict. Conflict is when two people who are closely dependent on each other see their values or goals as incompatible. But this is not always bad. Conflict can be valuable to you. In one way, conflict can help you to establish boundary lines and norms. If you have a roommate who's always borrowing your CDs or your personal items without asking you, and you have a conflict because of this, then that person knows that it's something you don't like, and you can establish boundaries and norms so that the relationship can continue to flourish. Also, the value of conflict is being able to express your feelings. Suppressed feelings often build in intensity, and conflict provides an outlet for such feelings. If someone close to you hurts your feelings and you're not able to express that to them, and you put those feelings under the rug, as they say, this can hurt the relationship. You may actually even withdraw from the relationship. So being able to express your feelings in a conflict is valuable to the relationship. Also, in business, if you have a dissatisfied customer who complains about something in your business, this can help your business in the future, because you can change the issue and you won't have other dissatisfied customers. So this conflict is actually beneficial to you as a business owner. Lastly, building a history of survival. Having and solving disagreements can demonstrate to both members of the relationship that it can withstand conflict. Husband and wives, when they have that first quote unquote big fight and they resolve the issue and the relationship continues to flourish, that lets them know that they can build a history of surviving conflicts in their marriage. And our textbook says, the author of our textbook, Oral Communication, says, understanding the positive functions of conflict is the first step in managing and resolving disagreements constructively. Now, let's discuss the sources of conflict. One source of conflict could be autonomy versus connection. The opposing needs of autonomy, which is the desire to retain independence, and connection, which is the need to be included in a relationship, can cause tension in some relationships. For example, if you're a college student for the first time and you want to go on vacation, maybe your Christmas break in Europe with your new friends, you may be worried that your parents and your old friends may feel offended or be upset because you're not spending Christmas break with them. This is autonomy versus connection. Autonomy is you want your independence and you want to be able to go to Europe, and that's your independence. But then connection is you want the relationship with your family and your friends, so you're torn between the two. And this is autonomy versus connection. And this is one source of conflict. Another source of conflict is stability versus change. Stability and change dialect in tension between the predictable and the novel. Stability is a need to control your environment through routine, whereas in change, you want a new experience. Long-term relationships can go through this deal. If a person is responsible for, let's say, taking out the dog every day, that's the normal routine, that's the stability. You take out the garbage and I'll walk the dog. But after a while, the other person may feel like, well, why don't you take the garbage and I'll walk the dog? Because you won't change. So you want the stability of routine, but you also want a new experience. So this can be a source of conflict. Also, incompatible goals. Conflicts can occur when one person refuses to come to common ground on an issue because they are focused on their concern and not the concerns of the other person. Our textbook used an example where it said that an employee who wants their supervisor's job may compromise or may try to sabotage their supervisor by not doing the work, so that their supervisor can get fired and they can apply for their job. Now, this is an incompatible goal because the supervisor, of course, wants to stay employed and doesn't understand that this employee is deliberately trying to sabotage their career. So these are incompatible goals, and this can cause conflict between that employee and the supervisor because they have no idea what is going on. Now, we've talked about the value of conflict. We've also talked about the sources of conflict. Lastly, we're going to talk about ways of handling conflict. Identifying your conflict management style is one way of handling conflict. And this is your personal way of persuading people to see your point of view. And the book illustrated 6 of these, and we're going to talk about those. And the diagram on page 221 of your book, and it is diagram 8.1, it talks about first coercion. Now, coercion is when you try to force someone, it's right here. Coercion is when you try to force someone into your opinion. And then you have persuasion, where you're trying to get someone to accept your point of view. Then you have collaboration, where you're working together to reach a consensus. Then you have compromise, where you're giving up something in order to submit to the other person's point of view. Then you have accommodation, where you're sacrificing what you want just to come to, just to come to a point of view, or just to come to common ground. And then lastly, you have avoidance, where you evade the conflict altogether. Now, your different styles depends on your personality or the culture you grew up in. If you grew up in a culture where everyone compromises and just kind of gets along, then that's going to be your management style, to compromise in other relationships. But if you grew up in a household or a culture where you always forcing someone to see your point or forcing someone into your position, then that's coercion. And this may change from time to time, because for me personally, if I see something that I personally want, I may be a person that avoids conflict. I'm not confrontational at all, actually. And so I avoid conflict. But if it's something I really want, I may move my management style to persuasion to get people to see my point of view. So this is a way to handle conflict, and those are the 6 different ways. Another way of handling conflict is handling conflict constructively. Now, which means cooperating, sharing interests, being flexible, opening for discussion, and being supportive of differences. Conflict becomes constructive when people focus on shared interests and try to achieve win-win situations. To handle conflict constructively, you can use certain guidelines that the book illustrates. And one is to remain rational. Another is to try to understand others. Maintain open communication. Be reliable. Avoid coercion. That means avoid forcing someone into your opinion. And also to separate the person from the issue. The issue is the issue, but not the person. So trying to maintain a personal relationship and not make the person the issue, because the issue is what the conflict is about and not the person. And also to remain open to others. When you remain open to others, you can resolve, because you can, again, going back to expressing your feelings. So if you're able to express your feelings and you're able to let them express their feelings, you're leaving yourself open to others and helping you to resolve the issue. Conflicts are a part of life, and they can be valuable and beneficial to us, which we discussed earlier, or they can be destructive. If you refuse to deal with certain situations and avoidance, it can be destructive to relationships, but it also can help in relationships as well. And if you can just identify the source of the conflict, and then you can handle the conflict well, then you are capable of being able to handle conflict and being able to have great relationships with people.